What's good, guys? Venny here, bringing you a new custom tactics sort of formation guide. And today we're going to be doing the 4-1-2-1-2. It's a little bit different to your standard 4-1-2-1-2 though, because usually when I give you like formation guides, it sticks to that formation and it doesn't verify anything. Like nothing really changes on the way it works. But with this custom tactic, it definitely makes the team like shape completely change depending on if you're defending or attacking. But before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe if you're new around here. Leave a comment, leave a like, it helps the channel grow. But let's get into these custom tactics and having a little explanation how we make 4-1-2-1-2 a meta top 100 custom tactic. Let's get into it. So before I get into this, I do want to mention there is a few, like I would say there's one main pro who uses this tactic, and that's Dull and Mike. So if you're ever wondering like how like good this custom tactic is, like are pros using it sort of type of thing, is it that good? Like is it good for that? Absolutely is. Dull and Mike, one of the best pros this year and even last year. You know, won a FUT Champs Cup last year in Bucharest, but this year he's doing very solid as well. I think he sees himself in the top 16. So yeah, that gives you a little bit of classification. I think that's the word on that this formation and tactics work. Well, not these. I don't have his exact tactics, but these sort of this formation, this style works at the top level of pro play, but also works in weekend league. Because if it can work at pro play, it can definitely work in weekend league. But let's get into, as you see, it's the 4-1-2-1-2 narrow. I don't believe it works with the 4-3-1-2, so you're going to have to use the narrow version. And as you see how the team is set up, even though this is my 4-2-3-1 team, I want to specify one thing with this formation, and I'll probably say that a little bit later on, is with the certain players you have to have in the certain positions. For example, I'll explain what type of player you need as a right centre mid and what type of player you need a left centre mid and so forth. But let's get into it. I think it actually was just on the standard custom tactic and I just backed out of it. Lovely stuff. Let's get into it here. Right, balanced defensive style, width 4, depth 3. I put the depth slightly lower just due to sometimes the transaction from attack to defense is a little bit slow. And actually, let me explain what the transition is quickly before I get into that, because a lot of people are going to be confused when I talk about the transition. In attack, you're using a 4-1-2-1-2. But with these certain player instructions, what will happen is your team will become a 4-4-2 in defense. And a lot of people struggle, especially me, struggle to defend with a 4-1-2-1-2, especially against the players who use the wings a lot, like a 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1. So this is why this sort of variation of the custom tactic and the tactic in general is really good, because a 4-4-2 can easily defend obviously other 4-4-2s and 4-2-3-1s. Maybe it's not as clean defensively as 4-2-3-1 and 4-4-2, but this is definitely a better version of using a 4-1-2-1-2. Because for me, 4-1-2-1-2 defending, it's like non-existent. Like literally, I don't know, they break through my centre mids and then they're left like with 5 people to beat. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons I use 4-2-3-1. But we're here to talk about the narrow formation, the 4-1-2-1-2. But yeah, attacking width, defending width, sorry, 4. I put it slightly lower because as a 4-4-2 naturally comes in quite tight anyway. Starts wide, sorry. So if I have it slightly tighter, my right, the guy who's starting right centre mid, who will turn into a right mid in defence, and my cam will go as the left mid in defence, just to be wary of. I want them still to be quite tight, because the most important part is compact in the middle of the play. You can even put that overload ball slide. I'm not really too sure like too much details about it. I know it's super overpowered, so maybe there's some custom tactics or some like somebody explaining them, so it might be worth you checking that out. That might make this tactic even better. Depth 3, I put it slightly lower due to, even though it's still it's a narrow 4-4-2 also is quite like, if it's got 2 centre mids, a lot of the times it's also easy to break out, especially on the counter. So I've dropped the depth slightly lower, so we're not getting counter attacked as easy, because usually with a 4-4-2 or 4-1-2-1-2, for me personally, I find that I'm getting countered fairly quick. So we just lower the depth down to 3, you know, using the metal to what everyone else is using and making that into benefit, because if you can't beat them, join them is the phase. Offensive style possession, you can easily use balanced possession or balance. It really depends on your play style. For me, when I use this tactic, I do like to use possession because like the people start in a different position. So for example, my cam will start as a left mid from defense going into attack. I need to know that he's still going to give me a feet option, because sometimes he's going to just stay out wide left sometimes. So you need to be very wary of that. So if I have possession on that, I'm always going to have a option to feet, especially like, and also you can get caught in the transition. So let's say if you're in the 4-4-2 and when it's defending, and then you get the ball and then everyone starts running forward and goes into the narrow sort of shape, you need to have an option to feet at all times, because sometimes one player might wander off and you think, you're so used to them being there, and they're suddenly not. So it's worth putting possession on until you learn the formation, and maybe upping it into balance if you want to be a little bit more dynamic, a little bit quicker in attack. Width 4, as I mentioned, narrow. I want my team quite naturally tight. I don't really want it to be wide. Like 5, I feel is too wide. Sometimes the right centre mid and left centre mid can even feel like a right mid, left mid, even in attack. And the only time I want them to feel like that is in defense. So put the width down to 4. Could easily put it down to 3, but for me, gone to 4. Players in the box 5. Kept that as standard. Not really too sure like what the changes are with this most of the time, especially with narrow. I haven't used it enough to really like tell you what one's the best. I'll just put out 5 because it's the most balanced overall. Onto the right back, onto the player instructions. The right back and left back on stay back. As I mentioned, we don't like with any formation. I think you need to be wary of the counter, and if you have your right back and left back stay back, you're always going to have 4 people at the back line to deal with any counter. So I definitely recommend putting the stay back instructions on your right back and left back, so you're not getting countered, especially down the wing, because if you do get countered down the wing quickly, even though it goes to a 4-4-2, you're still going to be a little bit screwed. So yeah, into the CDM spot, stay back, cover centre. You can put cut, passing, man mark, whatever you want on this. I just put them as balanced because get a bit of everything with that. Defensive behaviour doesn't really matter. Like your CDM works naturally how your CDM would work in a 4-1-2-1-2. You want that guy who's going to be winning the ball back, that defensive minded player. When it goes into the 4-4-2 shape, this guy turns into the right centre mid in defence, and then you're talking to the person who's going next to him will be your left centre mid, and he comes into like left centre mid in a 4-4-2. So these two, Rude, Hullet and Kante, would be like my defenders basically through the middle. You have to put cover centre on him, so he naturally, if you understand how the 4-1-2-1-2 works, a lot of time you'll notice your cam will sort of wander off to the left, and in defense just naturally. So this just makes it happen a more frequent time, so the team goes into 4-4-2 a lot quicker. So yeah, cover centre on Rude, Hullet. I would say the left-sided centre mid needs to be that guy who's an all-round box-to-box midfielder. If they can attack, that's even better. But in theory, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of cheaper options. Firmino screams really good. Like any other centre mid, like Uwa, I don't know how to say his name. The guy from Leon, I think. Who's just got a season objective, so he's like a good player to put on the left. So it's basically like a box-to-box player who can do a bit of everything. With Sheldon, for example, them type of players. Going on to the right side, you've got cover wing on him, and this is because he's going to be naturally covering the right side of the pitch as like a right mid / right centre mid, a little bit tighter than obviously a natural right mid. And I recommend having a quick player here because also he's very important in your attack. You'll notice that this position is more important than your left-sided player for when you go into attack, just because of the natural starting position of him from defense into attack. So definitely recommend having a quick player here. Don't really worry too much about the defensive thing, because as I mentioned, it goes as like a right mid. So with your right mid, you're not really worried about what their defensive stats are anyway. So definitely recommend having like a quick player. Like Mbappe for me is unreal. I think Dullen uses like Cristiano Ronaldo. He might not use him now because of the team year. He might push him up a little bit higher, but yeah. Somebody who's really good in attack but also quick would be super important as the right centre mid. Going into your cam, you can have any cam if you want. It doesn't matter whatever happens. Just bearing in mind. Keep it out of balance as well. All these custom tactics you can keep you have to have until the strikers, and then the strikers is up to you with what you have. Put it on balance, and then he will naturally turn into a left mid, as I mentioned, in defense. So yeah, very simple. In attack he's as a cam, in defense he's left mid, but you have to make sure you have all these custom tactics to set they are. I do sometimes put stay back on my left centre mid, just so I'm not, sometimes I feel like I've got too many numbers going up through the middle, so I have him stay back, so he's naturally always sat in as a like another centre mid, or a CDM next to Kante. Going into the strikers, I got drift wide getting behind on the left sided and balanced on the right. I got onto the balance first of all. This is because I want him to give me a bit of everything, either an option to feet, in, behind, whatever. I don't want him to be too specific in the way he's moving. You can put getting behind if that's your style. But personally, I like sometimes my strikers could be a option to feet. Going on to the left side, we've got drift wide and getting behind. And I've got it on the left side because, as I mentioned, your cam will turn into a left mid a lot of times in defense, and sometimes in attack still. It's still quite wide. With having Neymar, well, your left striker, drift wide and getting behind, you can basically use that space from where you pick up the ball with your your cam, to basically just play it down the wing. And also you get a bit of a different dynamic when you're attacking, because of the natural style of 4-1-2-1-2 is very narrow, very tight, a lot of tiki-taka. If you have drift wide and getting behind on one of your strikers, you're going to have a natural wide sort of style to add into your play. A little bit more confusing for people to defend. So yeah, I would definitely recommend trying drift wide and getting behind on especially the left striker, due to your cam starting position. I don't know if I've explained this too great, but hopefully you guys get the idea what I'm sort of going with. As I mentioned, it'll start like this as a 4-1-2-1-2 in attack. So when you're attacking as a 4-1-2-1-2, you don't have to change anything. Literally just put them custom tactics on and it will naturally sit into a 4-4-2. So yeah, as I mentioned, in attack 4-1-2-1-2, everyone's like, it's like a fan favorite 4-1-2-1-2. And then in defense, it'll naturally sit like so, like this, you know. But yeah, that'll be it for the video, guys. Hopefully this guy, sort of like tips and guides and whatever it is, gives you a bit of understanding how the 4-1-2-1-2 can work into a super meta version. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.